Today we will look at how to multiply single-digit whole numbers with decimals. Let's take a look at 3 times 2/10. We know that 2/10 is in the tenths place. And if we want to just multiply 3 times 2/10, we just do 2/10 times 3. And we end up with 6/10. So our answer is 6/10. Now let's look at 3 times 3/10 and 3 times 4/10 and see how they are different. It is important to always use our place value chart. So we're always going to be making our ones, our tenths, and our hundredths. And if we need to do more than that, we will. But right now we'll focus on that place value and make sure we draw our place value mats. We are first going to look at 3 times 3/10. Again, that means that the 3 is in the tenths place. Our decimal point is always between the ones and the tenths. So if we just take 3 and multiply 3/10 and multiply it by 3, we get 9, and our answer is 9/10. So how is that different from 3 times 4/10? Again, if we have our 4 in the tenths place, we know that 4 times 3 is 12, and we can't have 12 in the tenths place. That means we have 10/10 plus 2/10, and our tens move over. So our answer becomes 1 and 2/10. Now let's go ahead and look at 2 times 43/100 and 4 times 43/100. So if we have 43/100 and we're multiplying 43/100 by 2, each place has to be multiplied by 2. We can't just multiply the 3 or multiply by 4. It's the entire number 43/100 that has to be multiplied by 2. So we take 3/100 and we multiply by 2, we get 6. We take 4/100 and we multiply by 2, and we get 8. So our answer is 86/100 when we're multiplying 2 times 43/100. Now we'll see how that is different from multiplying 4 by 43/100. So our decimal stays in the same place. We have 4/10 and 3/100, which is 43/100. This time we have to multiply each piece by 4. So if we do 3 times 4, we get 12/100. If we do 4 times 4, we get 16/100. We know we can't write our number like that. We can't have 12 in the hundredths place and 16 in the tenths place. For every 10, we have to move over. So 10/100 moves over to the tenths place. 10/10 moves over to the ones place. And our new number, our answer, is 1, and we have 6/10 plus 1/10 is 7. 7, we got rid of our 10/100, and we kept our 200, so our new answer becomes 1 and 72/100. If we think about it, 43/100 is about a half, or really just a little less than a half. So when we look at 86/100, that makes about sense because this is almost 1, this is almost 1. If we do 4 times a half, we should get about 2. We should get 2. So 4 times 43/100, just under 2. 1 and 72/100 makes sense. So our answers make sense. We can look at this in the same way we used the area model, where we broke each of our digits into their place value. So if we had 6 times 1 and 21/100, we can show 6 as part of the area and 1 and 21/100ths and multiply 6 by each piece. So 6 times 1 is 6 ones. 6 times 2/10 is 12/10. And 6 times 1/100th is 6/100ths. Now we have to make our adjustments. If we have more than 10, a 10 will move over to the larger place value. So we have 7 ones now and 2/10 and 6/100ths. So 6 times 1 and 21/100ths is equal to 7 and 26/100ths. If it makes sense, we know that 1 and 21/100ths could be close to 1. It's a little bigger than 1. 6 times 1 is 6. Oops. Sorry about that. 6 times 1 is 6, so it has to be bigger than 6, so that makes sense. So let's try some on your own then, using a strategy that makes sense to you, the area model, or just drawing your place value chart. Try the next 3 examples and then see if you did them correctly. So you can pause the video now and work on these 3 problems. So for 7 times 2.41, I will do my area model, which really is putting it into its place value. I have 7 times 2 ones, 4/10 and 1/100th. So 7 times 2 is 14. 7 times 4 is 28. And 7 times 1 is 7. I make sure I know where my decimal is. And if I have 20/10ths, those are 2/10ths that have to move over. And my new answer is 16 and 87/100ths. So in looking at the area model, or just breaking them into their place value, we have 7 times 2 and 41/100ths. 7 times 2 is 14. 7 times 4 is 28. 7 times 1 is 7. So we have 14 ones, 28/10ths, and 7/100ths, but we know that we can't have 28 in the 10ths place. That means we move our 2 over to the ones place, and our 8 stays there. We have the 1 in the 10s place. It's not really in the ones place. And so our final answer is 16 and 87/100ths, which again makes sense, because if we just look at 7 times 2, that's 14, so it has to be greater than 14. For the next example, we had 8 times 2 and 34/100ths. I already drew my place value chart, and I'm just going to multiply each piece in its place value. 8 times 2 ones is 16 ones. 8 times 3/10ths is 24/10ths. And 8 times 4/100ths is 32/100ths. Now we know we can't write our number like that, so our tenths, I have to move my 20/10ths to make 2 ones. I have to move my 30/100ths to make 3/10ths. So I am left with 2/100ths, 7/10ths, and 18 ones. Our next one is 8 times 2 and 34/100ths. So we broke it up. 8 times 2 and 34/100ths. 8 times 2 is 16. 8 times 3 is 24. 8 times 4 is 32. And each place value has too many hundredths, too many tenths. They just move over. So my 3/100ths moves over to my tenths place. My 2/10ths moves over to my ones place. And my final answer becomes 18 72/100ths. Our last example is 6 times 4 25/100ths. So we're going to use the kind of a mixture of the area model and the place value chart. So we have 6 times 4 is 24. 6 times 2 is 12. 6 times 5 is 30. And then we make our adjustments. We can't have 30 in the hundredths place. So we take that 3 and bring it over to the tenths place. We have 10 tenths plus 2 tenths. So our 10 tenths have to come over to the ones place. And then we can add up all that we have left. We have 25 in the ones place, which the 2 is in the tens. We have 5 in the tenths place, and we don't have any in the hundredths place. So our new answer is 25 5/10, which makes sense again, because 6 times 4 is 24. Our number is larger than 4, so 25 5/10 makes sense. That is all for now. Hopefully you have a good understanding of how to multiply whole numbers by decimals.